So yeah, I must start from the various reflections that we just saw from the various cities. So I think that it makes my job quite easy, in a sense that when we see the cities in all of South Asian cities, like the picture was from Islamabad, Kabul, and then Kathmandu, and from India and Bangladesh. So the story was, one of the key story that emerging from was that there were a lot of cars, then less walkability, then we couldn't, haphazard traffic on the road, and then we saw that the space on the roads that was not equitable, and we saw a lot of differentials. So again, yeah, so I would like to build on the similar themes, because that anything which we actually studied yesterday or today, that are the things about solid waste management or urban mobility, it's very easy to connect with them, but in a sense that we don't need maybe an expert to speak, because we daily experience. So if there are a bad governance or a good governance, so both kind of experience we can directly actually experience with our own eyes. So it's quite interesting. So am I coming up with my slides? Yeah.
Sorry, just 1 second.
Right.
We have it. It's just maybe loading a little bit slow.
So regarding, the basic theme of our overall, the workshop is urban sustainability. So again, this is the lens from the urban sustainability lens. We want to see how to improve the waste services, how to improve our mobility, and that I would like to build my talk from the same thing, that whenever we talk about urban mobility, whenever we talk about SDGs, so the three lenses, that's quite renowned and everybody we know, that had been an environment lens and society so lens, and the third one is economic lens. So I basically built upon the same thing, that yes, in urban sustainability we should have all the three lenses. But again, yeah, this message from Mavra that can't see the presentation, maybe it might be coming. So I just, to save the time, continue my talk. So, but when we talk about the three lenses of environment, of society, and of economy, so how these three integrate and what is the linkages between them? So the most important, that whenever being an urban planner, we try to build our cities, we need to see that what are the maximum limitations which we need to actually respect. So with that, one of the most important thing that comes is the environmental angle. So before, that is the gradient, that if you are not going to respect the environment, the environmental boundaries, it becomes really difficult to respect other things. So yes, next slide, please. Yeah, so can we have us, I think, full screen view? So meanwhile we're coming. So I was talking about the right side of the diagram. It's very interesting and it's very intriguing, in a sense that the biggest hierarchy that we need to establish while developing our cities is respecting its natural and physical system. That our cities, somehow or the other overlap with the forest or is the river. So how we can respect these great environmental monuments. Then within that framework comes your social system, that respecting your demographic, respecting your gender balances, respecting the affordability limitation, that what kind of the society, how equal or unequal they are. And then finally, that whatever the best systems you can pick from the developed countries, but how much money in the end, how much money you have. So respecting your economic system, that how you can prioritize your limited economics, that build a story. Next slide, please. So again, this is a wonderful, theme of the same, that how these three spheres, that like the environment, society, and the economy, that connects with SDGs. So these two, things, before building my talk on urban mobility, I wanted that we must have a mental picture of that, because it's going to govern from our challenges to the solutions in urban mobility. Next, please. So again, the buzzword of urban mobility is a bit different from that we had been always talking about the city transportation. So naturally, the transportation had been moving people from one place to this other place. But urban mobility is more about the connectivity, about more that how enjoyable your journey is, how accessible different locations in the city is, and how affordable they are. So, mobility give us all those intangible experiences also. That's why now we see this word coming up. Next. So I've divided my talks into two predominant things. We'll be continue to talk between challenges and solution. But yes, if we talk about, there can be so many challenges, but broadly the bigger in urban transport and urban mobility are, one are the environmental issues, the others infrastructural, the gender and social, and affordability. So we would like to go a bit deep into that. Next slide, please. So, overall, if we just see the international scale, so obviously urban transport is coming up with very dirty gases. It's about 23% of global carbon dioxide emissions is because of this transport. And, this is by 2050, we expect that this, figures are going to double. Next slide, please. So if you see the international pattern, even our developed world is struggling with this. So if this is the thing which is from OECD, that almost half of that air pollution that is in the cities, that is coming from the transportation sector. And the left is a cute picture of one girl. That is the first case from the UK and in the world that when the cause of death was directly attributed to the air pollution. So we'll be zooming now into the South Asia, that just putting a few figures about international. Let's see how the things are shaping out in South Asia. Next slide, please. So if we see our own, cities in which we all belong. So this is the Jazeera report that say out of the 100 most polluted cities, 94 are from the South Asia, as our Indian cities, Pakistanis, Bangladesh, extremely polluted. The same story in the next report. Yes, please, next slide. So this is another report from IQ Air, and the thing, different, that a lot of Pakistan's flags and Indian flag you can see. So if you see the top 15 cities in the world, the more polluted. So again, the cities of South Asia are coming up. This is a known problem. Next slide, please. We all know that in the Economist Intelligence Unit always come up with the livability index. This is the one passage from the report, and key things I've highlighted that, there's an increasing pollution is affecting the livability in South Asia. And again, you can see the cities, all our lovely cities like Kathmandu, Dhaka, Karachi. So again, South Asian cities are coming here. Next slide, please. So it's, this is some, pictures that as you showed from Lahore, in a sense that this is the same thing as in New Delhi also. This is the thing which we observe in the Kabul also in today's picture that was shown by one of the participants, that we have to shut our schools. And, first we shut our schools due to the COVID. Then in the winter season, in December, January, we shut again because of the smog issue. So again, this is really causing a trouble to our cities and their livability. Next slide, please. So we all are victim. This is a very important graph, in a sense that in a one way, it tells you the trouble, but again, in another way, it tells us a solution also. That it's a big blue, ocean that you see. This is the blue is basically all the emissions that are coming from the road, the road-based transport sector. So by 2010, it was at least contributing to 72% of total emission. So here comes the solution also, that it means that you just pick one subsector of transport and just decide to cut it by half. So we will be really improving the environment of our cities. Next slide. Now from a bit of pollution, we'll be moving towards the infrastructure side. So, one is a very interesting slide which shows that how safe is our infrastructure, that whether how equitable it is, that whether the people who are walking, the people who are cycling, are they feel safe. And this is the protest which was in 1970s, moving in the Dutch. And I know that many Scandinavian countries, in Dutch, they actually transformed their cities, moving from the motorized vehicles to the non-motorized. But still, the road accidents are causing majority of the threats. All the people who want to actually move on cycles or walks. Next slide, please. So again, coming back to the South Asian context, this is another certain facts from the Economist. And if you see the 10 livable cities and see their infrastructure numbers, so they really score high when we talk about infrastructure. And if you see the bottom 10, so like Dhaka, Karachi, you will see that they are scoring less than 50. And if you see that how the infrastructure defined is connected, one of the two important things is the quality of the road network, quality of the public transport. So again, the infrastructure, if the cities of South Asia are coming quite down on the livability index, it means somehow that there are urban mobility vis-a-vis to the transport and road networks. This is not good. Next slide, please. So yeah, this is the picture again from one of our city, and this is infrastructure that you have also shown us in your picture, that how safe you see, in a sense that maybe I and few males can have a mobility in that kind of framework by sitting on the rooftops, but how many women, how many elderly, how many children, how many disabled persons can move in the city? Then again, this picture is quite interesting in the sense that if you see the separation in between the road, the green, barriers, so how easy for the people who are walking to cross the road, and how you see that walkability, cyclability, or the people who are just waiting for they can have a comfortable experience on the road. So that brings us the basic problem that cities have been built by the men for the men, and we need to actually include many other genders and segments of our society. Next slide, please. This also shows that this picture is from the left father who's taking his daughters from Afghanistan. So again, when we talk about infrastructure, this person is also as much citizen of his country as the guy who can afford the luxury car. And if that person is not feeling safe while cycling and taking his two cute daughters, so it means we need to actually bring a justice on our roads so that that person can also own a big part of its streets. Next slide, please. So from infrastructure to a gender aspect, so it's two cities, but story is the same. On the right side is Mumbai, on the left side is Lahore. So how many women who daily actually experience this kind of thing, that okay, male maybe they hang on the doors of the fast moving rail, and we can also stand like that, but it's really a trouble. Any lady who actually want to experience the public transport in the cities of India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, or Afghanistan, it's really a worsening experience for her. Next slide, please. So some of the things that was coming to an interesting study from GIZ. If just you just zoom in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is written. So again, there it is giving a principle. It is telling you this problem also. For example, if you just concentrate on number 3, where they say ensure women's security in transport system, it means that there's no woman doesn't feel secure. Then if on the number 4, if they are saying that empower women in the transport sector, it means women are not empowered. So it's quite interesting insight from the GIZ from this report that is coming. Next slide, please. So this is the thing which sometimes we try to get certain learning experience from others. But this here I wanted to contribute in a sense that all the 3 sometimes systems come up with a different kind of solution. European cities have been developed much before the motorized, evolution came, all the steam engine, coal engine. So here the streets you will see a bit smaller in walkability, but American cities, you have a lot of urban sprawl. And then even developing world cities, actually, there is a big diversity that is being shown in the next slide, that whenever we try to copy paste the experiences, so we need to see the cultural, topographical diversities also. For example, all the three cities, they are from the, you can say, developing world, Mumbai, Istanbul, Sao Paulo, but you can see the how diversified it is. This is a density map. That, for example, on the left, if you saw the Sao Paulo, it have a 29,000 around max accessibility per square kilometer. On the right is the Mumbai. In the same 1 square kilometer, more than 1 lakh people are living. So what it tells to urban leaders like you is that what kind of infrastructure is required in which part of the city, so that you can target your solutions as per the requirement of that city form. So it's very interesting insight. Next slide, please. So ideally, this is the thing which, normally being urban planners, how we try to see is that if you see the red lanes, we, ideally it should be that all your mass transit system should have a separate lane so that they can give them a fast mobility. Then private vehicles should have a lesser space so that we actually try to discourage them. And then there should be enough space on the street for the people who want to go by the cycles or they want to go by walking. Next slide, please. So that was one of the thing which we did for the Bogota city also. This is a normal common city and street, and that you can see in any of the South Asian cities. It's not a very rich or posh area, and you can see that footpaths are broken, and the car and bicycle and bikes are going on the same street. Next slide. So on the same street, we try to come up with this kind of design where you are trying to give walking spaces also, a bit of greenery also, a separate lane for the cycling, and very narrow street for the private vehicles. So this is kind of the thing which we can really show in our cities. Next slide, please. So while coming, just breezing through different big challenges, we wanted to come up with a bit of solutions also. So for the urban mobility, the three lenses through which we can come up with a solution. One is the theoretical side, in which I'll be sharing the logic model, which some of you might be already experienced with. Then how the time dimension models, this is a trend which we are seeing for past 7-8 years, is coming up in urban planning. What kind of solutions, the exciting solution it can give us, and then particularly in transport planning, what are the international best practices, what are the policies. So next slide, please. In logic models say that if normally in your life when we want to go through, you actually design you actually put inputs, and on based on inputs you come up with activities that give you outputs and outcome impact. But whenever you are as an urban leader designing these kind of thing, we actually plan on from right to left. First, you actually strategize your biggest thing, the big impact, that I want to increase the impact. I want to improve the environment. And how, you want to, what is the outcome? Whether you want to bringing impact in environment, you want to come up with outcome of improving the solid waste management or improving your urban transport sector. So what kind of the outputs and activities you will be? So in order to design, you will be moving from the right to left. So this is a bit of theoretical side at how in your mind we can be clear where we want to proceed. Next slide, please. So that next is that we are seeing for past 7-8 years, each after a couple of years, new time dimensions coming, and that is giving us an extremely exciting opportunity for improving our urban mobility in the city. So one by one, I'll be just blazing through that also. Next slide, please. So this was in 2015-16, this Metropolitan Century, a book came from OECD in which they said that big cities like, some of the cities we have in South Asia also, like Mumbai, New Delhi, Dhaka, Karachi, Lahore, these cities have become so big that you come up with this different kind of designs. 90-minute city concept came where you connect the different ends of your city within the 90 minutes journey, and those ends should be connected with the light speed rail and mass transit. and then how this connectivity can be ensured with the multiple cities and your different kind of industrial areas or housing or commercial areas. So these zones can be built in within this 90 minutes concept. So the maximum traveling time from one end to the other end should be there. Next slide, please. And then in 2018, another book came with the name of 30-minute city. So it was talking about the neighborhood, or the particular sub-town within the city should be built upon a 30 minutes time, in which basically they're talking about to giving the city a rapid bus, ride sharing, and focusing on accessibility. So all the big hospitals, the big universities, and schools should be built within those 30-minute cities. Next slide, please. Then in 2019-20, the Carlos Moreno came up with the concept of 15 minutes. And right now, Paris is actually implementing this concept. And the World Resource Institute just, I think, a couple of weeks back, awarded the Paris also for this, in which they were talking about the neighborhoods that where actually you spend much of your time, where you can go to the nearby, market to buy your daily groceries, or just on a street and a clinic, or maybe to your kids' school. So that kind of things should be built in within 15 minutes city, improving the neighborhood, and that city should be given walkability in bicycles, basically lanes. And next slide, please. And in 2021, the Sweden came up with the idea of 1-minute cities. That was quite interesting. The moment you actually step out of your home, so what kind of the city you see. So you should have enough space for the walks, for the sitting, so that you can enjoy the livability. So next slide, please. And here I'll be sharing, particularly in the transport sector, different kind of policies that are coming up. And there are basically broadly, if we divide, we can divide it into economic baskets, regulatory, and information. Next slide, please. So whenever we talk about the regulatory, this is one of the important things, the parking standards. In a couple of pictures, when you saw in Islamabad and other, you see the parking takes a lot of space. And normally they have been always concept in urban planning that we wanted to give a minimum parking standards. But again, now the talk is shifting from minimum to the maximum. Why? Because if you allocate a particular street, a particular building, a maximum parking, so the extra space, obviously you can divert it for the cyclability, for the walking and other parts. Then how you can give a smart regulation, in a sense that connecting the different modes of the transport, and so that it should be easy for a person moving from the light rail to bus or the bike sharing. So in many of the cities like Tokyo or in London, you have just one pass and you can use it for the different modes. So that coming up with that kind of thing. Then license-based restriction, which is not in a lot of the cities where you can some days of the week you can actually allow even or odds number of the players. Then obviously the freight management comes that you allow the big trucking only in the night. Then in the congested areas, there is school and hospitals there, limiting your speed, and then restricting your and improving your emission standards. That there's another curse on the South Asian cities that normally all our automobile sector is coming up with very bad engines. So improving those emission standards so that we can overall come up with a better environment. And then obviously enforcing whatever the regulation we're making. If we don't enforce these regulations, actually don't serve the purpose. Next slide, please. This was the most important, that more judicious and more equitable actually economic division, that infrastructure budget reallocation. Instead of spending only on the vehicle mobility, you should be putting your infrastructure on your footpaths, on your cycle lanes. So this is the kind of thing which we are saying, that road pricing, that if you are building a ring roads or if you're building a motorways, and then please put a high price tag so that you can discourage people from using a private vehicle and bring them back towards the public vehicle. And land value capture is also important. Fuel subsidies, that reducing the fuel subsidies in the private vehicle and giving more subsidies toward the public transport. And then operational budget allocation is the same thing, that how you give more operational budget to the public transit and less to the private vehicle, and removing all kind of tax breaks to the automobiles basically, and restricting the new vehicle registration. Overall, what the suggestion is from here is that moving away from the private ownership of vehicles and moving towards the public transits, walkability and cyclability. Next slide, please. And last is, as you have shown, that how important the statistical services, because the city management should continuously coming up with a different kind of stats so that you can come up with solutions according to your city form. And last but not the least, awareness. If our public is not convinced that they think that walkability, cyclability, and public transit is not good for these. So whatever the infrastructure we put, we will not be able to do anything. Like this. Next slide, please. So here, all that for you, we have put all the policies the world recognized in one slide. And here, next slide, please. I think that brings me end. And last thing I would like to say is that obviously we know that South Asians issues are big, but the way HS Foundation has taken initiative, most important thing is the learning from each other. Then maybe if something is working in Bombay, definitely Karachi can learn from. And if something is going good in Peshawar, so we can reciprocate in this thing from Kabul. So the network, being you young leaders, can contribute a lot in this sector. That's all from my side. Thank you very much.